Good morning, students. So in the last I had mentioned two of them with you, extraembryonic, not the germ layers, sorry, just extraembryonic membranes. Now extraembryonic membranes, we have four of them. So we have already mentioned chorion, then we have mentioned amnion, then now let us mention yolk sac. Any structure, but it has important part, because from this membrane what happens? Hemopoiesis. So this is the site for hemopoiesis. Site for hemopoiesis. Now hemopoiesis, you see formation of blood cells. So in the embryo, liver, spleen, bone marrow has not yet been formed, but the blood cells have started forming, and that starts from the yolk sac itself. And this is also where PGCs arise. Now PGCs, you see, to the gonads. So when the gonad will be formed, it will move over there and attach there. Okay, so it moved to the gonad. So that is about yolk sac. And fourth and the last one, that is allantois. Allantois, this is lined by same mesoderm on the outside and endoderm on the inside. Mesoderm and endoderm. And this is, I'll just give a brief about reptile and birds also. So in reptiles and birds, it is, you see, a temporary urinary bladder in which the nitrogenous wastes are collected. Okay, so this is, in this nitrogenous forms umbilical blood vessels. Okay, so umbilical cord is going to be formed, and that umbilical cord is going to connect the placenta to the fetus. So it forms the umbilical blood vessels, in which there are two umbilical arteries and there is one umbilical vein. And in this you can once again remember that, just like, because placenta is going to function as the fetal lung, so this is umbilical arteries carry deoxygenated blood, while umbilical vein carries oxygenated blood. Okay, so this is about the allantois. Now coming back to the epiblast once again. So you see, and below it we had seen there was hypoblast, and from this yolk sac and allantois are coming out, and outside here this is the amniotic bag, and here there is lot of connective tissue. This is basically all you can say embryonic mesoderm, extraembryonic mesoderm. So here you see allantois, because later I will be telling you about placenta, so let me make it like this. So it is, you see, it is joining with the chorion here, and that's why we use the term chorioallantoic placenta, because chorion and allantois together are going to form the placenta. As far as this epiblast portion is meant, this epiblast, if you will see it from the top, so if I make it here like this, that if you are seeing it from the top, like here we cut a section and then you are seeing it from the top, so where the head is going to form, that appears quite broad, where the posterior part of the body, that is going to be narrow. So this is the entire epiblast, you see, the broad area, that, and coming at the back side, they will be separating out at the back side. So this first of all, let me mark this structure is called primitive streak. So primitive streak is a narrow depression which occurs on the surface of the epiblast. Let us first write this. Okay, so primitive streak, this is a depression or a groove, whichever way you use it, just like a sulcus, that is just to understand. Okay, so primitive streak or a depression appears on epiblast on 15th day of the development, and this is the beginning of gastrulation. Beginning of gastrulation. So the cells of the epiblast, they divide and move through this primitive streak, and they will move towards the lower side, that means towards the hypoblast side. And these, the cells you see which are on the topmost layer, that is supposed to become the ectoderm. The ones which will go inside, they will form the endoderm, and then even some cells will be there in the middle portion, they will be separating out, and those will be forming the mesoderm. So epiblast forms all three embryonic germ layers. Three germ layers are going to be formed, and once all the germ layers are formed, you see there is still some space between the epiblast and hypoblast. That space is of course the blastocele. So that is the space of the blastula, and that space, once mesoderm is formed, that is obliterated. So that is then termed as the end of the gastrulation phase. Okay, so that is direct question has come in this language only. So obliteration of blastocele. So this is the end of gastrulation. Then and the formation of germ layer and formation of any organ is not related at all. So puja, gastrulation occurs much earlier here, just by 15th day you see it is occurring. Heart is going to be formed later. So by the time all germ layers have already established, after that organ formation will start. So you people don't let me first complete, okay? And I am not going to repeat, Rahul. I am not going to repeat that. And see, Harini, once again, this is a great problem. If you don't log in on time and you have a problem at your end, I can't keep repeating things again and again. That is your problem. You have to get rid of it. You have to have a proper connection. It's just that I had this diagram I had already done with you in the last class. This diagram was already there, and in this you see the epiblast that you are seeing. That surface of the epiblast, I have put it from the top, that you are cutting from here and you are seeing from here, from the top. If you are seeing from the top, this is how the epiblast will appear. There is a broad side, that is where the head is supposed to develop later, and a narrower side, that's why it is marked the caudal end, that is the posterior end. And on this surface, from the top surface here, there is a small groove will appear, and that groove upper layer. So the detached, now a new layer is formed, so that is endoderm. Similarly, further movement will be there, so that layer then detaches, that becomes the mesoderm, and of course the upper layer, that is ectoderm. So this way, from this epiblast itself, the entire, all three layers are going to be formed. Okay, and now the fate of these germ layers, what are these germ layers going to form? Fate of germ layers. So ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm. So you do with tissues, epithelial arises from all three, so I am leaving that. The entire nervous tissue, so brain, spinal cord, anything you get, that will be from ectoderm. Mesoderm, connective tissue, so heart, blood, lymph, blood vessels and muscular tissue also, that all comes from mesoderm. Okay, then if you see system wise, the alimentary canal, liver, pancreas, all these arise from endoderm. But in the alimentary canal, once again the buccal cavity region, and the last, that is the rectal region, that is the foregut and midgut, as if you see in case of cockroach, that is otherwise also called stomodium and proctodium, that comes from ectoderm. So stomodium proctodium. Stomodium is, you see, mouth, proctos is for rectum. So proctodium, these come from the ectodermal region. The urinogenital system, so kidneys, gonads, these all come from the mesoderm. Teeth, you see, teeth is more or less, it is mesodermal except for the enamel. Enamel you can keep it here. Okay. Then the another one is spleen. Usually we do not mention it with any other organ. We can mention it here. Spleen comes from the mesoderm. So these are some of the important ones. I think in your package there must be a list there. So you can go through the list. Some of the, like you see, we have done the endocrine glands. So you see like hypothalamus, whichever there is in the brain, that's part of the nervous system. So hypothalamus, pituitary, pineal, these all. Then adrenal medulla, that develops from the ectoderm, but adrenal cortex develops from here. Here thyroid, parathyroid, and also the thymus, that develops from endoderm. And the inner lining of all three tracts, so whether it is respiratory tract, gastrointestinal tract, or urinogenital tract, the inner lining comes from endoderm. So inner lining of all three tracts. Okay. So just go through it. Still you have a problem, then and a layer in between, that is mesoderm. They have just written this much, nothing else. So but I have just included few more things because obliteration of blastocele, this has been once a question. That is the end of gastrulation. Beginning of gastrulation, as I told you, is the appearance of this primitive streak. So once we start seeing that line like structure or a groove on the surface of epiblast, that means gastrulation has begun. Okay. Yes. Right. So next thing, I think I can take off this part. Next part is, next we can first discuss placenta. Once again, NCERT hasn't written anything about placenta. Now placenta is, okay. Now placenta, you see, it's a, you can say it's a temporary organ as well as it's a endocrine gland, because organ, by definition, what is organ? In which more than one type of tissue is involved, that is called organ, right? So that way it can be considered as an organ which is formed by both maternal and fetal tissue. Okay, so this is formed by both maternal and fetal tissues. Okay. Now first of all, from the maternal side, this I have already told you in the last class. Come on. Which part of the maternal side, that is which part of the placenta, uterus contributes to the placenta formation? Come on, give me the answer. Which part of the uterus contributes to placenta development? Okay, tell me, only then I'll write. Fetal side. Now fetal side, that's why I kept this. You see allantois and chorion together. So this is attached on the wall of the uterus. So chorion plus allantois. From the fetal side it is this. Okay. So that's why we use the term chorioallantoic placenta. Chorioallantoic placenta. Come on. The answers haven't reached me as yet. Okay, sorry, there was some technical issue, I think, from your side. Okay. Because the morning class was totally okay, there wasn't any problem. Okay. So, you see, next thing that is the answers that I can see is most of the people have written endometrium. Endometrium is okay, but I didn't want this answer. In the last class, I had told you after implantation, the endometrium is termed decidua. Right? Endometrium is termed decidua, and that decidua is now means the part of the decidua which is separating the embryo from the myometrium, that is called decidua basalis. So nobody gave that answer. Okay, the answer should be from the maternal side, it is decidua basalis. Yes. Are there still issues, or everybody is getting the video and sound proper? Everybody has written endometrium. Oh my God. Okay. So yes, everybody is getting proper video and sound now. So then I can continue. Yes. But you got my question and you have answered it incorrectly. Anyways, so this is from the maternal and the fetal side, you see. And then, so you see, when in the uterus we had mentioned, so this part is going to attach with the decidua basalis, and between the decidua basalis and chorion and allantois, there is going to be formation of placenta. Now the next question is, when does this placenta formation occurs? So of course it begins, but proper placenta, the fully developed placenta develops by means almost the first trimester, that is the 3rd month of the pregnancy, then it fully develops. Okay, so placenta is fully developed. Placenta is fully developed by the end of first trimester. By the end of first trimester. Okay. Now, this placenta, what is the function of the placenta, you see? So placenta is, through the placenta there is nutrients being provided, because from the mother's blood it will be filtering. Okay, and then all the respiratory gases will pass through the placenta. Nitrogenous waste of the fetus or the embryo, of course, they will pass through the placenta into the maternal bloodstream, and there is one particular antibodies which will cross through it. So you see, placenta is making a barrier also. Okay, so on that basis, another terminology we use for the human placenta. So I'll give you certain terms here, you see. So human placenta is one term, of course, we can have this chorioallantoic placenta. Although sometimes you may get only chorionic written over there, because in our case allantois is very small, so it is more of a chorion is the more dominant part, so we simply write chorionic placenta. Okay, so one thing is that. Then it is very intimately attached to the decidua, so that's why we also use the term deciduate placenta. So what will later happen is that only this part here, you see, this part, it would be attached to the uterine wall, and rest of the part will be elongating, because this is the part which will later be becoming into the umbilical cord. So as you see that, suppose this is the uterine lining, here there is a large disc-shaped placenta formed between the maternal and the fetal tissues, and there is a long cord which is attached to the, I'll just make a smaller one because I don't have a space here. It is attached to the umbilicus, that is the navel of the baby, right? Let's draw the baby here, and there's the head portion, so on. Okay, something like this, you can get an idea. So through this umbilical cord, you see there is, so this area actually, no, this area elongates, that takes up the form of umbilical cord. The rest of the portion here, this is becoming this placenta, fetal part of the placenta. Here it is the maternal part, and this is a quite large disc will be formed, almost 10 centimeters in diameter. And so across, within this placenta, you see from one side it is maternal blood, from the other side it is the fetal blood. So it has to be separated, because mother's WBC should not be going into the fetus, otherwise there will be immune reaction, she will develop antibodies against it, right? So there has to be a barrier. Now there are, on the basis of the barrier, the human placenta is called hemochorial placenta. Hemochorial placenta, because in this there are 3 barriers separating fetal and maternal blood. 3 barriers separating maternal and fetal blood. Maternal and fetal blood. Okay. So on this basis, this also you get a question. And these barriers, of course, details you know needn't know, but otherwise you will see here from the maternal side, endometrium has been broken, that is the maternal epithelium has been broken, the connective tissue behind it has been broken, and even the blood cells are broken, so that it is the maternal blood directly which is in contact with the chorion. So that's why we are using the term hemo. Hemo comes from the blood, so blood of the mother is in direct contact with the chorion, and here there is chorion, and then the class, you see we had mentioned lot of extraembryonic mesoderm that is forming the epithelial. This is again forming a barrier. So one is this the chorion, then of course the connective tissue here, and then of course the fetal blood vessels which will be inside, so that endothelium itself would be a barrier. So anyway, it is basically this term you should know for MCQs, that will suffice. Then what all can cross through this barrier? Okay, so placental barrier allows the passage of okay, just a sec, allows the passage of simple soluble substances, that is nutrients, waste, these all can cross. Then some of the hormones can cross, okay, few hormones, not all, mind it, few hormones. Then one particular antibodies, not all, one of them only, that is IgG. These are the smallest antibodies, and these can cross the placental barrier, and these provide immunity, passive immunity. This will be when preformed antibodies are given, this is passive immunity, so passive immunity to the fetus. And unluckily, most viruses can also cross the placental barrier, and that's why if the mother is infected, like with diseases, hepatitis B or HIV infection is there, so that will pass on to the fetus. Okay, So this is what all can cross. Now coming on to the placental hormones. As I said, placenta is endocrine gland also. So next we can talk about placental hormones. Now placental hormones, one is of course HCG, that continues, which I told you earlier. The trophoblast cells here, they start secreting HCG. So those trophoblast cells, you see, they are making up this chorion. So this secretion continues. Okay, HCG is nature wise, if we see, glycoprotein hormone, and this one is similar to LH, and this, what it does is it maintains corpus luteum. It maintains corpus luteum, okay, so that progesterone release continues from the ovary. Then another hormone of course is progesterone itself. Now progesterone is secreted by the placenta during pregnancy, and this progesterone, it maintains the endometrium. One is of course that it does not allow it to break, maintains endometrium. Then it inhibits uterine motility, okay. Then look into your NCRTs. There is one diagram of uterus given with the baby developing within it. So there you will find in the cervix area, it is written mucus plug. So that mucus plug is thick mucus which is filled up in the cervix, so that once again from outside various microbes and all, they cannot move and cause any harm to the developing fetus, right? So that thick mucus is formed by progesterone, okay. So this forms thick mucus plug in cervix, thick mucus plug in the cervix, that is there. And so this is now you see when placenta is fully developed, like here you see first trimester, by the first trimester ends, that is third month, the placenta will take over progesterone secretion. Now once progesterone secretion is sufficiently being produced, there is no need for ovarian progesterone, okay. So this is one common question, that after the third trimester, if this is assumption question of course, that if the ovary is removed, then what happens to the pregnancy? Okay, I am writing that question for you, that I have given you the premise that progesterone secretion is going to be taken over by placenta. So your question for you is that if ovaries are removed, so in this, one is before first trimester and another is after first trimester, then what would happen to the pregnancy? Come on, write your answers and then I'll give you the explanation. Okay, so think and write. By the time we can take the next hormone from placenta. So you see progesterone, this will do. Then next hormone, that is estrogen. Now estrogen is it promotes uterine growth, because as the fetus enlarges, the uterus also has to keep on growing. So that is because of estrogen promotes uterine growth. And not only that, it is during this time you see the duct system in the mammary glands will develop, okay. So develops duct system in mammary glands. And with this I remember this here also, this one develops alveoli in mammary glands. Okay. Ashutosh, first one, termination of pregnancy, no termination of pregnancy, and no such effect. Yes, two answers I have got, correct answers, right? Because if it is before first trimester, the source of progesterone is ovary only at that time, because placenta has not yet fully developed. So in this case, there will be miscarriage. That means the pregnancy will be lost. There is going to be miscarriage, or you can say termination of pregnancy. And yes, more answers have come. Radhika, correct answer. Shubham also. Harini. Right. Shruti, correct answer. Good. So after first trimester, it is nothing happens. Okay. No effect. Because now the placenta has taken over, and so it is the sole source of progesterone that will do. Fine, good. So this is one, and lastly we can mention HPL, that is human placental lactogen. Human placental lactogen. Now here you see lactogen, that means milk generating. So in this, Vinayak also correct answer, but Sabha you have given answer only for two, first for one you haven't given answer, but let it be. This is B. I have told you that if ovaries are removed before the completion of first trimester, there would be abortion, spontaneous abortion, which is called miscarriage, or we can say loss of pregnancy. Now this HPL you see, this is, you can say it is similar to prolactin. But at this moment during pregnancy, milk is not being secreted, but the milk secretory glands, they develop, right? So all that preparation for lactation begins in the during the pregnancy, and then after the birth of the child, those glands will actually be secreting the milk. So in this case, what this human placental lactogen is doing, it stimulates the development of mammary glands, the development of mammary glands, right? And actually it is first the action of HPL, it first activates, and then estrogen and progesterone can have their effect. So progesterone and estrogen are not directly having their effect in developing the duct and the secretory portion. They are first activated, it is first activated by HPL, and then these two hormones can have their effect. So it stimulates the development of mammary glands, which are then further acted over by estrogen and progesterone. Acted over by progesterone and estrogen, number one. So this is one thing that is happening because of this. So you can imagine this is prolactin here. Another important function also this HPL has, which is not mentioned in your NCERT, but it is an important growth hormone also, you see. So the fetal growth is because of this. So this one stimulates fetal growth. Okay, that is another function of it. So you can say it's a combination of prolactin plus GH. So this is a hormone which is having functions of this, right? So these are the four hormones which are there mentioned with the placenta, right? And so placenta, you see the types of the placenta for human. I have done that only. Because in many of the guidebooks which are available in the market, there the placenta of other animals is also mentioned, but that is all graduation syllabus, that's not needed. and just you do the human placenta, the types that we are mentioning here. And then another one, of course, that is the placental hormones. When is the placenta formed? So on, right? Now coming to gestation. So gestation. So gestation is the entire period of development in the maternal uterus. That's what is the gestation period. So this is from conception, because once the pregnancy starts, that is called conception. So from conception till parturition. That's what is gestation period. Now your NCERT has mentioned that try to find the gestation period of other animals like dog, cat, so on. So it is, since they have mentioned it, so you should know it, right? For dog it is about 62 days. 62 days, that would be nearing 2 months, right? Cat also similar, because there are so many species of cats, so ranging from 57 to 65 days, different species. Once again 2 months. The longest gestation period, of course, is for elephant, which is 22 months. So longest we can mention, longest gestation period is for elephants, which is 22 months. Okay. Now this, as far as humans are concerned, for humans it is 9 months, or it can be written in days. So 266 to 270 days, I am writing two of them, you see, and 280 to 284 days. So which one is correct? Rahul, I think this is once again why initial milk is colostrum and not the entire milk all through the lactation period. So this, you see, there is lot of energy constraints also, because colostrum is very rich in proteins. So that much protein also to provide, means the female's body will have to provide that much of protein. That will not be possible, because proteins are something which require, means that much protein should be there in the diet, only then these proteins she can produce. So this is one thing, and the basic idea of this colostrum is to provide lot of antibodies to the young one, and so that these antibodies, once preformed antibodies are given, they will be there in the circulation for 6 months. So for the 6 months the newborn baby will be protected, will have passive immunity because of those antibodies, and by the time his or her own immune system will become active. So that purpose is solved with this thing, and moreover the energy requirement, as I told you, to secrete so much of protein, this is not possible for a living system. Okay. So the energy constraints determine, then amount also, because as the baby is growing per day, they require more and more of nutrients. So colostrum just won't be sufficient to fulfill their need. So even that is there. So nature has developed us in that way, so that according to the need, the various parts, means various systems have developed. Okay. So yes, everybody has written 280 to 284 days. Okay, fine. Oh, good. So let me tell you once again, both of them are correct. How? Let's see. So you see, if you see, there is a difference of 14 days. Is it or not? So how this 14-day counting we are going to do is that, just once again remember the menstrual cycle, and going from day 1 to 28, the fertilization would have occurred nearby 14th day, because that is the time of ovulation, and after ovulation the egg remains in the fallopian tube hardly for 24 hours, right? So After that, the fertilization would have occurred. Now, if we are counting from the day of fertilization, then this we are counting from here. We count from here till the parturition. But the day of ovulation, nobody actually knows. So how the doctors count the expected date of delivery? They ask for the last menstrual period, because once pregnancy has occurred, menstrual periods have stopped, right? There is no menstrual bleeding. So, but in the previous cycle, for the previous cycle, when the corpus luteum regressed, there was menstrual bleeding. So, what was the date of that menstrual bleeding? So, if from here it is counted, you see we have an addition of 14 days more. So, this is lesser, 266 to 270 days. So, it is 14 days less. So, that means this is from the day of fertilization. Okay. So, this is from day of fertilization. And this is from last menstrual period. I think the concept would be clear to everybody. Okay, so this is from the last menstrual period, this duration, and this is from the day of fertilization. Of course, for all calculation basics, all the gynecologists, they of course calculate it from the last menstrual period only. Clear? So now this entire phase, we can divide it into 3 trimesters, 3 months each. And yes, Pooja, the initial question that you had asked me, that is, you see gastrulation. Now after gastrulation, the organogenesis starts. Now in the organogenesis also, let me tell you that it is, since we are chordates, first mesoderm forms notochord, so that is called notogenesis. Then above the notochord, there is neural tube form, there is neurulation. And then after that, the organogenesis, rest of the organs are formed. Organogenesis. Okay. So, what NCERT has done, they haven't written anything about it. They have directly started from it. There's nothing wrong in it. They haven't said that other things are not formed. They have just mentioned which people wrongly interpret as Pooja had also done, that the first organ formed is heart. It's not written that. It's just written, NCERT has written, by the end of first month heart is formed. So by the end of first month heart is formed, but in that first month also the neural tube has been formed, and that neural tube will be giving rise to the spinal cord and the brain. So that is actually the first organ, if you talk about, that is neural tube, and then heart comes later. But that is what NCERT has written. There is nothing wrong in it, but rest of the things they haven't written, so it's partial truth. Right? So anyway, we'll mention here first trimester. First trimester, this is first to third month. First to third month. So in the first month, as I said, neural tube is formed. Neural tube forms. And by the end of first month, first month, heart is formed. And even the fetal heart sounds by special stethoscope to which amplifiers are attached, because you see at this time, at the end of first month, the fetus is not fetus as yet. We won't use the term fetus, embryo. Fetus after second month. So the embryo is hardly the size of a grape. So for that size of a grape, you see what would be the size of the heart. So that cannot be heard just by normal stethoscope. So there is a special one by which the fetal heart sound can be heard. Okay. Then coming on to next thing, that is second month. So in the second month, by the end of it, limb digits. Okay. The limbs and digits are formed, and in this also you see every chordate embryo, it appears almost like this in the beginning, and this is the head portion and the tail and so on. So you see small buds arise like this. small buds arise, and these buds, they grow bigger, and the entire limbs and the end of the limbs, the digits, these all develop by the end of second month. And then there is the third month. By the end of the third month, all organs means organ systems rather, I should say, all organ systems develop, although they are not yet functional. So if the baby is born, it won't be able to survive, but all structures are developed. And that is why you see the first trimester is a very important phase, and during this time birth defects can arise if there are, from outside the mother gets some chemicals or maybe radiations, or even any virus, she gets ill. So because of that, birth defects can develop. And this kind of any substance which is causing damage to the fetal development, that is called teratogens. So you have a direct question here about teratogens. Teratogens. So teratogens, you see, teratos, it means monster. So monster generating. So it's not a monster, of course, a defective condition in the baby. And so these are so these can be all types. You see, physical, that is radiations can be there, chemical, or biological, that is viruses and all, that will come under biological. So any physical, chemical or biological agent that causes damage in the development of the fetus. Yeah, in the development, in the embryonic development. We can just write that. In the embryonic development. Okay, that is what is here. And one special example we have here, which has appeared in questions number of times, thalidomide. Now thalidomide was a drug which was given to females who had a problem of morning sickness, because during pregnancy people have this problem that in the morning they feel nauseatic, vomity feeling is there. So to get rid of that, they were prescribed thalidomide. And these females, when their young ones were born, their limbs had failed to develop. That's why I showed you like this. You see, initially the buds arise, and these buds, they didn't grow bigger, they remain just like that. So just small stubs at the place of where the forelimb and hind limb should be there, that remained. And this was a thalidomide disaster rather in the 1950s. A lot of such young children were born, but when then it was, people tried to find out, probed into the matter why this is happening, and this was then pinpointed. So this drug was stopped. Now this drug doesn't have any effect for a normal person. Like some people have motion sickness, then they are going in a car or any vehicle, they have a nauseatic feeling. They take thalidomide, no problem there. But during pregnancy, in the first trimester, if it is taken, this results in this condition. Okay, so thalidomide, so this resulted in this kind of condition is called phocomelia. Phocomelia. You see, phocos is the scientific name of seal. So just seal-like, flipper-like limbs, or simply limbs fail to develop. So phocomelia, in this case, limbs failed to develop if the mother took thalidomide in the first trimester. In first trimester. So this is one common example. There's a long list of teratogens, right? Then, but the most the time of the pregnancy, time of the gestation, which is most prone to thalidomide, that is of course the first trimester. Then after that, coming on to the second trimester. So second trimester, this is from 4th to 6th month, and once again NCERT has given for 5th month in the 5th month, the scalp hair develop, and fetal movements begin. The fetus moves within the uterus, of course inside the amniotic bag. So fetal movements begin in the 5th month. And then in the 6th month, the eyelids separate. You see, initially the eyelids, the upper and the lower eyelids are attached to each other. So the eyes are totally closed, and now the eyelids separate, and on the margin of that eyelids, the eyelashes also appear. Okay, so eyelids separate and eyelashes appear. Okay, and then lanugo. Now lanugo, you see, is fine hair which is also called down hair, all over the body. Okay, so fine hair arises all over the body. Okay, that is there. Then coming to the third trimester, that is from 7th to the 9th month. Now in this, all organs have already been formed. Only thing is the baby gains weight, more fat is deposited. Okay, so weight gain and fat deposit in babies, or in fetus rather, I should write. And in the 7th month, one more thing happens. In 7th month, surfactant maturation begins. So you see the fetal lungs, because the fetus is, all the respiratory gas exchange is occurring through the placenta, and the lungs of the fetus, they remain collapsed. And initially there is no surfactant, there is lecithin on the inner lining of alveoli, but now the surfactant system begins to mature. Okay, so surfactant system begins to mature, and if it is a male child, then in that case the descent of the testis in the later part of the 7th month. So descent of testis from abdomen to the scrotum, that also occurs in this 7th month. So this will do about the major gestation period, what all is happening and so on. And then finally, of course, we come on to the parturition, that is childbirth. Now, parturition or childbirth. Now you see parturition, as there are certain terms there in your NCERT, and exactly those have come in the exam also. And 3 years there was consecutively question on what gives the signal for parturition. So the signals for parturition arise from the fully developed fetus as well as from the placenta. So two are involved, right? So signals for parturition arise from fully developed fetus and placenta. And this entire parturition step is, you see, it's a neuroendocrine event. So nervous system and endocrine both are involved. Okay, neuroendocrine event, right? So okay, then we'll take one by one. So what is happening in the fetus, what's happening in the placenta, and what's happening in the mother, right? So so this, when finally what will be happening, the mother's pituitary will be stimulated to release. I hope you everybody remembers, so because somebody had asked me what is the difference between synthesis and release. So synthesis of the oxytocin, you see it occurs in the hypothalamus. From there, from the nerve endings, it is getting stored in the pituitary, posterior pituitary, and from there oxytocin is going to be released. Fine. So if we start from the fetus, fully developed fetus, so you see in the fully developed fetus there is release of CRH, corticotrophin releasing hormone. What is the source of this CRH? Let me see how many people remember. Yesterday I think you had a test, so you must have revised from the endocrine system. CRH, the source of CRH is CRH from yes. What is the source of CRH? Pituitary, oh my god. What did you do in yesterday's test then? CRH is from hypothalamus. CRH is from hypothalamus, and this will in turn stimulates pituitary to release ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. Okay, and this ACTH, and this is what all is happening inside the fetus, and ACTH, this stimulates adrenal cortex, to release cortisol, and there is another one, DHEA, that is dehydroepiandrosterone, which is a sex corticoid. Okay, yes, last में कुछ आंसर सही आया. Alaukic, Rahul, hypothalamus. But Rahul has first given answer pituitary. I very well remember. Yes. So then he changed the answer. Chaliye. So now you see, so fully developed fetus will start releasing CRH. CRH will stimulate. Now this is happening. Kiska pituitary? Whose pituitary? Fetus pituitary. Okay, the fetus pituitary, anterior pituitary to release ACTH, and ACTH in turn is going to stimulate fetal adrenal cortex. This is all under fully developed fetus I am talking about, and as a result from there DHEA and cortisol are released. Okay, so now this DHEA in the placenta is converted into estrogen. So now coming to placenta. So what is happening in the placenta, let us see. So in the placenta, DHEA from fetus gets converted to estrogen. Now you see the placenta was already secreting estrogen, but now the amount of estrogen is going to increase because now there is one more source which can be converted to estrogen. So during all through the pregnancy, the dominant hormone was progesterone, but now the progesterone dominance is removed and rather estrogen becomes the dominating hormone. So in this case you see estrogen levels rise, and progesterone, this is called progesterone block. Now progesterone is no longer dominating, so progesterone block is removed. Because you see progesterone, as long as it is there, it will not allow uterus to move. Uterine motility it has inhibited. So it has to be dominated over, and estrogen has now become the new hormone which is dominating, which is having more amount is being released, and as a result progesterone cannot have its effect. So this is what has happened through the placenta, what has happened here. Now in this case, this estrogen which was released, so estrogen goes into the uterus also, okay. So estrogen acts on uterus, where what it does is it develops more of the gap junctions between the myometrial cells, that is smooth muscle cells, okay. So this one develops more gap junctions in myometrium, number one. And another thing what it does is it develops receptors for oxytocin. So now the uterus will be able to respond to oxytocin, okay. So that is done by estrogen. So this develops receptors for oxytocin in uterus. So this is what it has caused in the mother. Now as progesterone dominance is removed, the uterus starts slightly contracting. So there is uterine movement starts, okay, because placenta now also secretes a little amount of prostaglandins, okay. So with progesterone dominance removed, and prostaglandins released from placenta, lead to mild uterine movements, okay. So this is the beginning of labor pains, okay. Now few things let me mention here, that is with labor pains, you see uterine contractions begin. These are occurring. Because of these uterine contractions, there are nerve impulse generated because the nerves which are there, okay, and these nerves, they carry the message to the maternal pituitary. So this message goes to maternal pituitary, and maternal pituitary in turn releases now posterior pituitary, of course it releases oxytocin which was stored over there. Now this oxytocin, you see, it increases uterine contraction. and when it increases, there is more of nerve impulse going to the pituitary, more oxytocin release. So this becomes a positive feedback loop. Okay, so a positive feedback loop develops here. So this is another example of positive feedback. Okay, positive feedback loop develops here, and as a result, ultimately, so much so of uterine contractions will be there that the fetus is of course ejected out. And this is, we are talking about normal delivery, where the size of the head is bigger and it is heavier, so it has come down towards the cervix side. So it will be when the uterine contractions occur, they are pushing it down, and ultimately the cervix dilates and the fetus is ejected out. That's what is the fetal ejection reflex you see. Okay, so in this case what happens is cervix, at the same time also cervix dilates. Now this dilation of the cervix is by relaxin. Cervix dilates due to relaxin, which is coming from the ovary. So the source of this relaxin is ovary, and then amniotic bag bursts. All that amniotic water will come out, and finally the fetus is ejected out. Fetus is ejected out. Although after the fetus is expelled out, it's not that the uterine contractions will stop. They again continue, so that finally the placenta is also detaching from the uterine wall, and even placenta gets delivered. So that is called the afterbirth, because that is after the birth of the child. So that's why it is called afterbirth. So afterbirth is delivery of the placenta. So placenta, you see, it is still attached. So we can once again make over this child here, just a simple cartoony diagram. And this is the umbilical cord, and at the end of the umbilical cord this placenta is attached. Okay, so this umbilical cord would be cut and tied so that the placenta is separated from the newborn. So this is the entire process. So you see neuroendocrine, that's why we mentioned that nervous system is also involved, endocrine system is also involved, and of course the fetus and placenta, their effect is ultimately stimulating the maternal pituitary to release oxytocin. And oxytocin, you remember, it has been prepared artificially also. So it is very much available in the hospital. So if the mother's body is not producing sufficient oxytocin, that synthetic oxytocin, that is pitocin, can be given to the mother in the form of injection to increase the contractions for the birth to take place. Right? So anyway, this was about the entire process of parturition. Okay. Next thing, that is coming on to the lactation. And when I remember in the anatomy part, I had left out mammary glands, so I'll take that too, so that the chapter is complete then. So lactation. So with lactation, let us first mention mammary glands, or simply the breasts, which are called. Now, if we see the section of it, you have seen in the NCERT diagram, there is the major amount is of course the fat inside, and since it is a section, so at the back we'll see the muscles is there, the ribs which are cut, the cut ends of the ribs, and in between the ribs, of course, the intercostal muscles can be seen. Okay. So let me label this much part. This is pectoralis major muscle. This is the rib. This is intercostal muscle. And inside each of this mammary gland, there are these mammary lobes. Okay. So this is mammary lobe, which are 15 to 20 in number in each breast. Rest of the tissue here, you see, it is lot of adipose, lot of fat is filled over here. Okay, lot of fat is filled over here, and this all fat deposition also comes because of estrogen. Estrogen is responsible for that fat deposit. And here inside I'll just make one of it. So this here, like this, and these are the alveoli. I've just drawn one of it. So here you see this is the alveoli where the secretory cells are there which will be secreting milk, and within this alveoli space the milk will be stored also. Then it is the mammary tubule. So you know that these glands here, they are compound tubulo-alveolar. So there is a tubular part, there is an alveolar part, and the duct is branched, so it is compound tubulo-alveolar gland. Then it is mammary duct. Mammary duct. This is ampulla. And the last one, that is this, which is leading to the outside, that is lactiferous duct. So with this you get the flow of the milk also. The flow of the milk will be from alveoli coming into the mammary tubule to mammary duct to ampulla, and finally to the outside through the lactiferous duct. So one question is that itself. Then the hormones we have already mentioned. The alveoli, they develop because of the progesterone. The duct system develops because of estrogen. The secretion of milk is synthesis, secretion, any such thing, you get the term, that is prolactin. And the release, of course, the last part, that is from the lactiferous ducts coming outside, that is because of oxytocin. Yes, I feel this part would be, anyway, I'll mention here rather. So colostrum, let us mention first of all, colostrum, that is foremilk. So this is thick, yellowish secretion, thick, yellowish secretion produced in the initial 2-3 days after childbirth. Initial 2-3 days after childbirth. Okay? And this is rich in proteins. Some books they do write there are no fats, but that's not correct. It's negligible. Fats are negligible. Okay, so negligible fats, you can't say it's totally absent. Okay, and one particular antibody is there, that is IgA. So you see these two antibodies are very important. One which crosses through the placenta, that is IgG, and the one which is present in the colostrum, that is IgA. Even in the mother's milk also these are present, but not so abundant, much lesser amount. But in the colostrum it is abundant, and that is going to provide passive immunity to the newborn for the next 6 months, because these pre-formed antibodies, they remain in the circulation for 6 months almost. And so this is initially what was thought, that this colostrum, since it is thick, so yellowish, so this is not good, and the newborn were not fed on it, and this was discarded. But now since we know its importance, so now people are advised that the newborn should be certainly fed on the colostrum. It should not be discarded. They should be fed on it, because that will be very helpful for the immunity, because the newborn already, since their immune system is not fully functional, so they are prone to catching so many diseases, because once they have come out of the mother's body, they are exposed to all the pathogens. So it is necessary that they do get this colostrum. After that, normal milk will be there. So during lactation, the hormone which will remain in high concentration, that is going to be prolactin, right? So prolactin, so this one stimulates synthesis and secretion of milk. Synthesis and secretion of milk. Okay. Now, Prolactin, as long as it is high, especially in the first initial 6 months of lactation, because that's what the doctors also prescribe, that the newborn should be fed only and only on mother's milk, because that is sufficient to fulfill all the needs of the newborn, and they should be they should not be given even water, because with water the child will just its little stomach will be full and they won't be taking much milk. So they should be fed only and only on milk that has water as well, so that will be fulfilling all the needs. So as long as the mother is going through this intense lactation, prolactin levels are high. And prolactin, you see, PRL in short we had written, prolactin inhibits FSH and GnRH. So if it is inhibiting GnRH, so you can see LH also is going to be that is going to be inhibited. So during period of this intense lactation, there won't be any menstrual cycle or ovulation. Okay, so during period of intense lactation, that is up to 6 months following parturition, menstrual cycles and ovulations are suspended. Menstrual cycles and ovulations are suspended. And this is what is called lactational amenorrhea, because menstrual cycle, if it is suspended, that's what is amenorrhea. So this one is lactational amenorrhea, right? So we had mentioned gestational amenorrhea, that is during the pregnancy, menstrual cycles and ovulations are suspended. That was because of progesterone levels being high. And here it is lactational amenorrhea. So this is during the period of lactation, and this is due to high levels of prolactin. So that once again is important, right? So because anyway this will be discussed in the next chapter as well, but since we can relate it here better, that would be there. So now you see, let me see how many of you can guess before we end the class. That is during pregnancy, prolactin, that is HPL and estrogen are coexisting. They are both of them present, and both of them are having a synergistic effect, that is for the growth of the mammary glands. So I think everybody remembers that just now we have done. But after childbirth, is estrogen there? Can estrogen levels be high during this time? Yes or no? After childbirth, are prolactin and estrogen present simultaneously? After giving this much of backdrop, I think you should be able to understand. Yes? Any answer? Estrogen levels along with prolactin, will it be there after childbirth? Come on. Yes? Okay. Maximum people have answered no. Shruti, you have answered yes. Now, just now I have given you this already, that FSH and GnRH are inhibited. And if FSH is inhibited, the follicle is not growing, and the growing follicle secretes estrogen. So that means estrogen will also be not there, right? So during this phase, during lactational amenorrhea, estrogen, of course progesterone, both of them will not be present. Okay, so they are not coexisting. But during pregnancy, HPL, estrogen, progesterone, they all three of them are present, right? And at that time they are having synergistic action. Synergy is where two or more hormones are enhancing the function of each other, acting on the same target. But after pregnancy, you see, there is both of them, estrogen and prolactin, they are rather antagonistic, because the presence of one, presence of prolactin, is inhibiting the production of estrogen. So this is these hormones. That's why some few things are very technical and you should understand the concept, so that you, because everything you cannot apply at the same time, because what is happening during pregnancy, after pregnancy the conditions are reversed, right? So Shubham is still giving the answer, they can coexist. No, you see, even in a non-pregnant state, prolactin is never secreted. It remains inhibited by the action of, remember, PIH. PIH, that is prolactin inhibiting hormone coming from the hypothalamus, keeps the hormone inhibited. So prolactin, you have to understand, will be secreted only when the female is producing milk, only at that time. Otherwise it is never secreted all through life of the female. So a female who had never had any pregnancy or never had any child, they will never would have produced prolactin. Okay, so one thing is this. And then similar to prolactin, because the hypothalamus pH is inhibiting the pituitary prolactin. So pituitary prolactin is not secreted during the pregnancy stage. In the pregnancy stage, the placenta has taken over, and the placenta is secreting a prolactin like hormone, and that was HPL. And HPL and estrogen, both of them were being secreted, both of them were coexisting, having a synergistic action. But after childbirth, once again, both will not exist together. I think I have made it clear. Okay. So this is one. I think with this we complete with this chapter also, and we are through with the time. And let me just, even some people, if they have any doubt, I'll just give you one excerpt. That is, suppose many a times it does happen that when the female gives birth to the child, so during the birth either the child dies, or maybe just after birth there is death of the child. Then in that case the mother is lactating, but there is what to do with that milk. So that milk secretion has to be stopped. And in that case they are given estrogen from outside, because after childbirth estrogen and prolactin are antagonistic. So estrogen will inhibit further prolactin secretion, and that's way the further milk secretion will also stop. So this is how females who have undergone death of a child just after birth, or there was a stillbirth, that the child died in the uterus itself at the time before the birth, so in that case they are treated like that. Okay, so I think that will make it clear, although the concept went a little beyond, but anyway. So in the next class, that is tomorrow, we'll start with a new chapter, reproductive health. And so go through this chapter, go through the questions, and keep posting your doubts in the platform, as well as, of course, when we meet again for the doubt session, that is on Saturdays, right? So that's all for now. Thank you students.